Yeah, so Sarah Ellison put out something a few days ago where Todd Monken was interviewed and was asked about J.K. Dobbins. And this seems to be the thing, the answer that Monken gives, as well as Harbaugh, that they talk to him every day. And so the communication between coach and player seems to be pretty good. But they've been very vague on when exactly he's going to come back and where he is as far as his headspace is concerned. It's just that they have really good conversations, and that's kind of where they leave it. So here's what Sarah Ellison had put up. She said it's pretty clear that Ravens OC Tom Monken would like to see J.K. Dobbins on the field, admits to initially being a bit too much of a smart aleck in his response, but ends with saying that he's just excited when J.K. decides to practice. So here's what he actually says.
To have J.K. out there, I mean, there's no question about it. And we look forward when he does get out there. I don't control that. What I control is what we do each day on the practice field, and we'll be excited when he gets back.
John said he talked to him. Have you talked to him at all?
I talk to him every day. I talk to him every day. I don't know. There's a big smile on his face, and I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's there every day. So when he's out there, we'll be fired up. He's out there.
Realistically, with JK, how far behind is he as far as learning this offense goes? How much catching up does he have to do when he actually gets back?
Great question, because he hasn't repped. So it's hard for me to know that when he's not out there. It's just the way it is. I mean, he's not out there, so we'll find out when he does get out there. But we're excited. I know I was kind of being a little, smart aleck there, but I'm just saying in general, when he gets out there, we'll be excited to have him. Well, we'd love.
So there's a couple of things that, like, I feel like personally that were mentioned that's worth talking about. One of them is, as I'd mentioned before, communication's still there. But what Tom Monken was saying about the reps, I think, is very important. That he wasn't flat out saying that they need JK out there, but he also said that we need JK out there with it. You know what I mean? Like it is one of those things where he doesn't want to throw JK under the bus, but at the same time, he doesn't want to take away from the fact that it's super important for him to be out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, see, we talked about it. JK. Team looks a little bit different when he's back there. One, we've had a lot of good things. Do you think this is something that we just thought we're not going to talk about this right now. But we can see how when there's certain issues that float over a team, we saw it last offseason with the Ravens. Is this something that's ringing true the same way, or you feel a little bit differently on this one?
This one's just an odd one to me because I kind of can go two ways with, obviously, when your lead back's not out there and it's not necessarily a full injury issue and there's all this talk, it just brings negativity into the locker room, or at least just into the Twitter sphere, I guess. That's all everyone talks about. And I think that's the last thing everyone wants to talk about, with the last couple of years and how it went. But it's your lead back. You want him out there, and he's unfortunately hasn't really been out there on a consistent basis the last couple of years, which is I think why a little bit we're in the situation, or they're in the situation that they're in. I can go two ways with how to handle it, because it's like, if you're going to sign a guy of his caliber to an extension, that's what he's looking for. Probably, in my eyes, the best time to do it because he hasn't really been there for you in terms of consistency due to injuries and different things. And I mean, you should get him at somewhat of a discount, but if he's looking for a better deal, I think this would be the worst time for him to look for one. Kind of, unless he's just worried that he's not going to get through another season, which is not really the best thing to kind of ask for when you're looking for an extension. So
that's kind of where I'm at, Steve. Like, I think that, like, you have Saquon that signed the deal that he did. What was it, 1 year, $10 million or something like that?
Right? With 10.9, I think, but you have the incentives to boost it up to a certain level. So almost $11 million with incentives.
But still, that's not a lot for probably arguably the best top two running back in the league, right? Would you make that?
Athletically?
Yeah.
I mean,
so if he's going to agree to a deal like that, which I would say is not like a giant deal, like, what is going through JK's head in that, like, thinking that he's going to get something better? I'm not saying that JK isn't a dog, because he is a stud.
Beast.
But I would say that he's probably not at the same level as like a Saquon is athletically, and that he's probably not going to net the same type of contract, I would assume, as a Saquon would.
Well, this is the whole topic, because we'll just tie in the other situation here is with Jonathan Taylor. You know what I mean? Because that's continuing to go on.
Those are the top 2 running backs in the league, in my opinion.
As far as I will say, I think Nick Chubb, pure runner wise. I mean, Derrick Henry is just older now, but he got paid and he still performed. He's probably one of the few running backs. If we take the contracts, said, hey, we're going to pay you. And he got hurt, but then he still runs over people left and right. Yeah. He looks like Steve in his prime. So, but the other thing, Steve, because I kind of want to tie this in, and especially for us both being involved in professional sports, contract wise, and I know baseball is different, but the same concept applies. You play and you have to continue to prove yourself to get this next contract. And a lot of teams aren't going to be willing to maybe extend you earlier. In baseball, it's getting through arbitration, right? Makes sense. Football is getting through your rookie deal. And if you're a running back then, and now how it is, it's evaluating, do we just draft a replacement? Because I'm not saying this is not me being one way or the other, by the way, for anyone out there. Like, I'm all for people getting paid. I want people to get paid left and right. You know, like it's the same thing with my teammates in baseball, but the same thing applies. Teams have to make a decision on paying all this money for certain players. And then that's what you got to live with. So like, Steve, do you think that system is something that needs to change? Because I know that was a talking point for years, like getting rid of in baseball, getting rid of a year of arbitration. Do you think for rookies, for the rookie contract, do you think that they have that right at 4 or 5 years, depending on if you're a first round pick? Or do you think that that's just the nature of the beast?
I think this is where it just gets really tricky, because I think running backs are obviously, it's been talked about, they're just in a really tough spot. They get overused. Their position is brutal, and for injury purposes, if they're lucky to kind of have a good couple seasons and get through it, obviously they're looking at an extension. And if unfortunately for the first rounders, that they can kind of go for five years before they become that free agent. But then you have the franchise stuff that just really, other than the qualifying offer stuff for baseball, you really don't have that issue where they can just kind of extend you twice, you get paid, and you're still playing year to year, and they don't get that security. So I think maybe one of the things, and obviously players have been, I think, fighting for this, to get rid of the franchise tag, or at least maybe get rid of it for certain positions. Maybe that's the fix. Whereas you can't kind of screw over a position that you overuse. Whereas, a lot of the other positions are maybe, in terms of quarterback, like they're always getting paid, no matter what, for the most part. They're getting through it. They're 27, 28, 29. They're getting paid. So in maybe certain positions, maybe out of the draft, they're only going to go maybe 3 years for running backs. Maybe you do it based on position. I don't know really how that would work, but and that would probably screw up how people draft. But I think something needs to be done, because unfortunately they are getting the crap end of the stick. So I don't really know what the real answer is, other than maybe shortening it. But the owners aren't going to go for that, because they're winning right now in terms of that deal. So I just don't know how you get through that.
And that's why I just brought up we're talking about with the ownership. And like, I get both sides, by the way. Like Brad and I talked about this. Yep. We don't fault anybody on either side. If I'm a business owner and you're trying to figure out, is this worth my investment after, like, I was trying to think of, and that's why I brought up with the arbitration with players. Like, Steve, how many times we see guys hitting free agency in baseball and they're 29, 30 years old, right? Yeah. Like Cedric Mullins isn't a free agent yet,
right.
So what's that going to look like? And then who's going to be willing to pay X amount of money? So like you saw Machado got the big deal. You saw Aaron Judge got the big deal, and they all
Shohei Ohtani's going to get the biggest deal of all time.
And I mean, he's incredible.
Two players.
Right.
Yep. Literally unbelievable. I mean, he's just.
But then you go into how long is he going to be, a good two players,
right.
And
right.
It's
and
like,
that's
what
when
are you paying for?
Right. And that's when you have to put on your GM hat, right? Like, and okay, what's the risk in paying a guy like this? And then it doesn't pan out for me. Like, and then I look like the asshole that like just dumped all this money on a player and bet the farm, probably quite literally, on a guy who didn't pan out. And now I'm like the worst GM ever, and
Yeah.
set my team back God knows how long.